Okay, here we go. Everything is working. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Facebook. Hello, Instagram. Hope you're doing very, very well. Welcome to the 13th episode of Tuesday Talks with Azren. If you're new to the segment on the Facebook page, YouTube, or of course on Instagram, it's pretty straightforward. This is the segment where I talk about a particular language learning topic. There's a different topic every week, and I share my thoughts on it. For those of you who are new, the way that the topic gets selected is that in the Language Learning Nerds Facebook group, so the Language Learning Nerds Facebook group, what happens is that we put a poll every single Monday, and people vote on the poll. They vote on the different options, and based on what gets the most number of votes, I then select a topic that we're going to talk about. And today's topic, the thing that got the most number of votes, was how to use languages in a work context at work. How do you use it? How do you use it in your career? And I wanted to share some of my thoughts based on my personal experience. Yeah, based on my personal experiences. So the way that I personally use languages at work is I teach foreign languages. That's how I do it. I basically run, I suppose, what you could view as a tutoring business. So I have different tutors who work for me. I personally tutor languages as well. And that's how I have chosen to use languages in a work context. So if you are someone who speaks different languages and you really like learning different languages, you might want to consider pursuing that. Maybe you want to start tutoring. Maybe you want to have some of your own students and run a small tutoring business. That is something you can definitely think about. And for some of you, that might be the right path. Another similar path that you can do, another similar way that you're able to use languages in a work context is you could go about more of a freelancing route, and you could become a freelance tutor / freelance translator / interpreter, meaning you could be someone who tutors different languages and teaches other people different languages, and you can do that on a freelance basis. So you work for yourself, you have your own rates, you charge what you charge, people pay you for that, and you don't hire any other teachers. You don't do like what I do. You don't hire others. You stay as a one-man show, a one-woman show, one-man business, one-woman business, and you find clients and off you go. That is definitely a way that you can use languages in a work context as well. I mentioned it before, but there's interpreting and translation. That's something you can get into as well. I think there's different certifications for that. Wow, look at my hair. Funny. There's different certifications that you would probably need for that. It's going to depend on what country you're in or what region you are in. But by all means, that is something you can do. By the way, on Instagram, I see Nina, you're requesting to join the video live. If you're able to wait like 15 minutes or so, I'm happy to have you in and we can chat and I can answer any questions you have. But right now I'm just going to wrap up our topic first, and then I'm more than happy Instagram Nina to chat with you and answer whatever questions you have. So just hang tight for a moment. So yeah, that's another pathway that you would be able to explore when it comes to using languages in a work context. I think for a lot of you that maybe don't want to go down a freelancing route or don't want to run a tutoring business like what I do, I think another thing you can do is you are able to combine your language skills, your linguistic abilities, with other skill sets you have in order to get a job doing something in a different field altogether. So you might choose, for example, to do something like, who knows? You might choose to, let me think of an example here. I had a friend who got a job with an airline. He got a job with the airline because he spoke French. So he was working primarily in a very customer service oriented field. And he got that job because he's bilingual in English and French. That's why he got that job. So the job itself has nothing to do with languages, but he spoke another language, which therefore allowed him to kind of get that job, if that makes sense, right? Another example would be I know another guy who I haven't talked to in a couple of years. I should give him a call, actually. But I know another guy, he used to have a full-time engineering job. He was an engineer, and he used to work a lot with South American companies. He used to work heavily with them. And one of the main reasons he had that job was because he was one of the few people in the company that actually was bilingual in English and Spanish. In fact, Spanish was his first language. So he had that engineering job because he had the Spanish language background. So sometimes you will end up getting a position that it has nothing to do with languages, but you get the position because you have a foreign language, right? So that's something to think about as well. Sometimes you want to look for things that your language skills can complement another skill set that you might have. Something else to think about for languages, which is something I only learned very recently, actually, and this goes more into the tutoring route once again. So you have to understand that you can actually, so how do I say this? Previously, when I thought about tutoring, I always thought of it as something that would be really difficult to derive a full-time income. I always thought being a tutor, and if you were just a tutor, I thought it'd be really, really difficult to derive a full-time income out of that. And I still stand by that belief in a certain sense. But I've recently been learning about something, and I've realized that for a lot of people, for certain people, having tutoring, simply tutoring, not even running a tutoring business, just you being a tutor, for certain people actually can end up being a reasonably viable path for employment, a full-time employment, depending on what your financial ambitions are. And the reason I've realized it is because I've been talking to different people that hire tutors. And when I look at the rates that they pay their tutors, I'm like, you could actually make a full-time living off that. If you found 2 or 3 companies that would hire you to tutor for them part-time, and they're paying you a good rate, you can make some good money on it. So I'll give you an example. I know some people that'll pay tutors $30, $40 an hour. That's what they'll pay them. They'll give them the student and they pay them $30, $40 an hour. When you map that out, if you're working, let's say 30 hours a week, right? 30 hours a week times, let's say $35 an hour, right? If we just do the math on that, what is that per year? 35 times 30 times 52, you're making $54,600 a year. That's not a bad living whatsoever. That's not a bad living for a lot of people, especially if you live in a country where the dollar is worth more than what your local currency is, right? I met someone else. This was really extreme. I don't think this is common per se, but I did meet someone else who runs a tutoring business. And I think her clientele must be more wealthy, because she's able to pay her tutors, I think it was like 60 or something US, because what she ends up doing is she has larger group classes, right? And she charges whatever she charges per person, and just with the profit margin she has, she's able to pay the tutors more and the teachers more. So that's not common. Not everybody's able to do that per se, I don't think, but it's worth looking. I think tutoring can be something that you look into for certain people. That can be a full-time income. Now, the last thing I'll say on this job hunting topic, and then maybe we can answer some questions from the viewers. So please enter your questions, people that are watching us, if you have things you'd like me to answer. We'll also take Escalatina, we'll also take her live, and we'll get to talk with her live to see what questions she has. We could talk to her. But the other thing you might want to think about, and this is a general job hunting tip, is I think it's important to explore various avenues of finding employment. So I know people who, when they think of finding employment, they go to larger companies, they submit their resume online, and that's what they do. They read postings, and they read them, they think about them, they fill out the application, and maybe they're filling out a couple of applications a day, maybe, right? They're sending out a couple of applications a day, something like that, for different positions based on, companies that are posting on job sites, which I think is fantastic. But I think taking a more proactive approach to finding employment is a good idea. So what do I mean by that? I think looking on different job sites. I don't think everybody looks on 4, 5, 6 job sites to find employment. So for example, in Canada, we have Indeed, we have Kijiji, the Facebook has a job section. There is Upwork is another freelancing platform, Upwork. There's, I think Monster Jobs is another one we have here. You know, Craigslist, you can find work as well. You never know, it might be a little bit more shady, but you can definitely check. So are you posting and reading, looking for jobs on various different job sites? I think that's a really important thing to be looking for. There's also Facebook groups that are for hiring for specific positions. So are you in those Facebook groups? I think that's it's a good job hunting strategy. I think you should be very proactive in talking to every single person in your phone and asking people on your phone, scroll through your phone contacts and start asking, hey, this is, and just ask them, hey, I'm looking for some work. I'm looking for this. I really am looking to work in this kind of field. Does anyone have any leads? And starting to ask different people. One of the biggest things I'd recommend as well is going on social media, Instagram, I'd say Instagram, Facebook, even YouTube, finding small businesses or even maybe medium-sized businesses or even large businesses, to be honest. But I would probably say finding people who finding content creators who have a small business around the content they're making, taking an hour to research their content and actually watch their content, go through it, and see if there's something that you can actually add value for them and ask them. Send them a DM or send them an email to say, hey, I was wondering if I could help you with such and such thing. I'll give you a great example. 2 people, actually more than 2, let me think. 2 people right off the top of my head immediately. In fact, 3 people right off the top of my head immediately who work for me or who used to work for me for a certain period of time, got their job with me, not because I had a job posting. That's not how they got their job. Not at all how they got it. Instead, the way they got their job was that they had actually come to me and asked me to see if I had any work that I was hiring for. And they done it in kind of they done it in a thoughtful way, not just, hey, Azren, are you hiring? They basically said, hey, Azren, I saw that you're working on this project. I think I could help with that project by doing this. Is that something you'd be interested in looking at? So one guy, he messaged me saying, hey, Azren, I saw you started to do some German programs, some free German classes. Do you need help with your German? I actually speak German. I would maybe be interested in doing some part-time tutoring. I could even maybe help with such. And he gave me a few different options. And I was like, actually, yeah, German is a pretty new program. That's an interesting idea. I'll talk to you about it. We talked. He didn't actually end up teaching German, but now he actually does a lot of community management for me. Community management. He does some content. He'll do some graphic design for me. He does. He's kind of like an admin as well. Like he has a part-time job with me now, right? And that because he emailed me. Second person was very similar. She's like, hey, Azren, I saw on I've been kind of following your Facebook for a few months, and I saw on your Facebook that you, I forget how she worded it. I think she said something like, Azren, I saw you're really busy and you seem to deal with a lot of logistics. I actually do part-time administrative work for people. I'm a student and that's my part-time job. I do it on a freelance basis. Would you be interested in like potentially having me help you with that? And I was like, I do a lot of logistics work. I probably could use some help. So we had a phone call. She told me about her rates. It was quite affordable. And I was like, sure. So she then worked. Now, she wasn't doing something languagey, but she worked for a language company with different languages, right? Simply because she'd asked. Another person showed initiative. And what she did was she asked me if I was hiring. At the time, I was not. I was not hiring at all. For what she wanted to do, I was not hiring. She wanted to teach Spanish, and I was not hiring at all. I did not need another Spanish teacher. But I told her, hey, you're welcome to volunteer. Like, I mean, I don't know if you want. I was literally, while I'm talking to her on the phone, I was like, I don't know what to tell her. She wants to work. I was like, do you want to volunteer? She's like, sure. She's like, I guess so. And I was like, all right, sure. You're welcome to help out at things. She started to volunteer at some Spanish classes I ran. She did good work. And every time she worked with my Spanish teachers, they really liked her, and she did good work. People liked her work. People liked her personality. When she would see me at things, she'd ask me like, hey, is there anything I could do to improve my teaching? Like, is there anything I can do that you've seen? So at one point I told her I was having a training session for teachers. And I was like, if you want to come, you're welcome to. So she wasn't employed. She just showed up. She showed up to the training session for teachers. And she showed up and she took notes and she was diligent about it. Fast forward to COVID, one of my previous teachers was really not technologically savvy. She didn't know how to teach on Zoom or Google Meet or Skype. That wasn't her strong suit at all. That wasn't something she knew how to do. And so guess what happened? She left and suddenly I had an opening. Guess who I went to? Oh, and actually, let's take a step back. She emailed me again. I sent out an email saying, hey, I'm going to be running some classes. She emailed me again, this volunteer teacher, saying, hey, do you need help running any of those classes? And she caught me at the right time, because right at that time, one of my teachers had left. And I was like, actually, funny timing. I could use you. And because she'd volunteered, she'd shown initiative. She'd shown up to a training session despite it not being something that she wasn't hired at the time. Because of that initiative that she showed, I was like, perfect, the job is yours. But she had done that for a number of months, probably from, I would say like 2-3 months of showing, probably 2 months or so of showing initiative, and showing initiative. 2 months she did that for, and then she kind of got that gig. I'll give you another example. I can give you so many examples. Here's another example. This is me actually. I did this just 3 days ago. I saw a posting from a company saying they're looking for English teachers. I emailed the company being like, hey, I saw you have a posting looking for English teachers. I actually run a tutoring business myself, just like you. I'd love to work for you as a contractor. You contract our services, right? You contract our services for, you contract our services to teach English. Like, you'll hire us, I'll provide a teacher, we'll come up with a specific deal. Never answered me. I waited 4 days. I followed up. I was like, hey, just checking in to see if you got my email. I'd be really eager to at least discuss working for your company. And after the second email, they replied to me. And now we have a call set up in an hour and a half, in 2 hours today. So I think it comes down to, you have to ask. Even if they don't have an active job posting, you have to ask. Be open to volunteering and working for free. Be creative in your job post, in what you offer. Be thoughtful in terms of your messaging. Think about, how can you help that company based on what you're seeing on their social profiles, seeing on their website, what could you offer, right? How can you help? I sometimes think applying for smaller companies sometimes might be a faster way to go sometimes, because larger companies, you might have a harder time because there's more red tape and there's a very formal hiring process. But a small to medium-sized company might just hire you. Like, if you were to message me, like, I could hire you in 24 hours, theoretically. I won't, but I could theoretically have you going on something in a day pretty quickly, right? It's not that difficult. There's not a lot of red tape. I'm the decision maker. I'm the one owner. Reasonably small business, kind of a fast moving business. So that's something to think about. Okay, let's answer people's questions. Let's go into the chat here. Let's answer people's questions. Let's look on Facebook to start. Looks like Facebook's pretty quiet. No questions on Facebook right now. Let's go to YouTube. There's Insane Humano. Nice to see you. Hello. If you have any questions, you're welcome to type them in. Instagram, I saw some stuff on Instagram. Let's scroll up here. Is English are you an English native speaker? Yes, I am an English native speaker. How do you prepare for a class for someone who's already at a fairly high level? Good question. I think you've got to prepare for that class the same way that you prepare for any language class. You need to think about, what are their learning gaps? What are their learning gaps? What are the barriers that stop them from getting to a higher level? And you have to attack those barriers. No different than a beginner class. Beginner classes are exactly the same. You think about, where's the student at? What are their barriers to get to the next level? And off you go. And you've got to work on those barriers. I think it's the exact same thing. For fairly high level people, you're often going to have barriers around very technical things, technical grammar, things they're making mistakes on. Vocabulary, writing is a common one. They're not strong writers. They're not strong writers. They can write and they can get their point across, but they're not strong writers. That tends to happen. Often that even results in, that often stems from them not being a strong writer in their mother tongue. They're not a strong writer. They don't know how to do that. Often it comes down to reading novels and doing novel studies. Often it'll be film studies as well, where you do film studies and novel studies. Sometimes you'll get into territory of more slang and more casual expressions. Yeah, there's a few thoughts I have. All right, let me see if there's other questions. If not, we'll wrap it up here. Nope, no other questions. So, all right, everybody, thank you for watching. I appreciate your attention as always. Thanks for the patience in the beginning while I was working through different tech difficulties. Instagram will say goodbye to you first. See you. Bye-bye. Okay, YouTube, let's do you next. Goodbye, YouTube. See you. See you next week, same time, 12 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. See you then. Bye-bye.